Topping Talks.
Let's see it.
105 hours a week can't be beat. Welcome to Topping Talks. Topping Talks is a Topping Tribune production. Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies and ExpressVPN. Topping Technologies is also on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Stitcher. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice this day. I have to say he's quite handsome and brilliant. If you're a business in Texas that can use a hand, you can reach us at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, are you part of the 3.6% of Americans who still care about their privacy? If you are, then perfect. ExpressVPN can assist. Even though 96% of stats are made up on the spot, ExpressVPN does give a 100% guarantee via the 30-day back money guarantee. Now, without further ado, I'm proud today to say that I'm interviewing Will Moebest, who is the VP of IT at Solera. Thanks so much for coming on the show, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun to always have a conversation,
Absolutely.
especially when it's something about a field so exciting as IT. So,
It's a big one too.
yeah, extremely. It's extremely diverse. It's like being in the rainforest.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I know going back a couple of years, I want to thank you for your service. And then going with that note, it also kind of goes into how did you first get in IT as well?
Yeah, my parents owned a small business, and we had servers that I think were NT4 at the time.
Oh, so, really? What kind of business?
They had a bookstore.
No way. That's awesome.
A bookstore and a coffee house, and then that morphed into a bakery at some point. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So we had it was like way back when, but we had a product called Booklog. It was all DOS based and everything like that, and learned how to network the computers there. And then my dad was a graduate student at University of Santa Cruz. We always had computers in the house. We always had nice stuff. I remember one day he came in, I think it was like 1995 or something, 32 megabytes of RAM.
Oh my gosh.
That was the he was really proud of, and it was like thinking back on it, that was like $5,000.
Holy Moses, yeah. $5,000 for how much? Was it 32 meg? Meg.
Yeah.
Holy. And right now, to edit the podcast, the computer we built has 32 gig of RAM.
Yeah, it's pretty insane, but it's cool. It's cool to see the evolution. And then as I kind of continued on, I always like doing technical stuff. I actually started out in theater.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So a little junior college in Ukiah, California. Called Mendocino College, and I was part of their theater arts program for a few months, and then the 2008 recession hit, and I was literally on a stage, and I got a phone call from a Marine Corps recruiter, and he says, "Hey, what are you doing with the next 4 years of your life?" And the rest is history. So spent 4 years doing that. Got to go all around all around the world in a bunch of different ways. It was a lot of fun. We started, when I started back then, it was like, I think the standard at that point in time was like Server 2003.
Oh wow.
Windows Server 2003. And they just started transitioning everything from XP to Windows 7. And by the time I left the Marine Corps, we were already on Windows 10. And they were still kind of transitioning that to Windows 7.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
So you joined the Marines specifically with IT in mind?
No, I joined because I wanted to serve my country.
Mm.
My grandfather was a lieutenant in the Navy.
Oh wow!
During World War II. It's something it's something I think everyone ought to do. In some form or fashion, as serve their country, because we have such amazing people in the country, and they need good representation. And there's so much negativity out there and stuff like that. it's always good to see it kind of return to what it's supposed to be. Something of pride. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And then, what was your first role when you left the Corps?
When I got out, I worked a couple of different contracting jobs. I worked for a couple of small firms. I'm not sure if they're still around anymore. I haven't checked in on them, but I did contracting and lots of fun stuff. Lots of things. all IT related, but I can tell you a funny story that I'm sure you'll appreciate. So while I was in school, I went to the employment services that they had at the school, and there was an elderly man that had put an ad in and said, "Hey, I need help. I need help setting up an enterprise level infrastructure for a chain of hospitals that I own." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, that sounds great." So a little bit of time goes by, and he sends me an email. He's like, "Hey, can you come meet me at the house?" And I said, "Sure." So I drove over, and I was out of the Marine Corps. I didn't have a job. I was in school. I had my housing allowance. That was about it, and I had my 3 kids at the time, and my wife. And gas was like it's expensive. It was. I'm sure it was way cheaper here at that point in time. It was like 2013, 2012. Way cheaper than California.
Of course.
But,
yeah. Well,
But it was kind of interesting. So I was on my last tank of gas. I drove out and I got to this guy's place, and it was in an elderly community. I was like, all right, so maybe he's an eccentric billionaire living in a retirement community. So what ended up turning out was that he got hooked into an internet scam. My name is Prince whoever, and I've got $800 million, and I want to give it to you.
Yes.
And he was absolutely sure.
Oh gosh.
That he had that money in the Bank of Nigeria.
Oh no.
So I ended up getting a hold of his family's numbers, and I'm glad it was me, because I'm sure people would have just kind of taken advantage of him. It's really it's really unfortunate, but what they told me is that they had given away like about 3/4 of their inheritance to.
Oh God, no.
Yeah.
God. What year is this?
This is 2012, 2013. Yeah. So
that's devastating.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible. I mean, but it's things like that, So those are the kinds of jobs that I was looking for.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And then I got hired by Primo Water, or then at the time we were Glacier Water.
Oh yeah. And I was gonna say, I love the stories about those companies that they're so big, and yet the average consumer doesn't realize or make that connection. And like, because my whole life I've seen that company, but didn't realize what was behind, or logistics, or how big the company really was. Mm-hmm. So a lot of folks who may not realize it, that's basically the company you see at every grocery store and convenience store,
everywhere, for
the bottled water, or the jugs of water. Right. With those machines all filled up.
You have the refill machines.
Yeah.
On the outside, and you have the refill machines on the inside, or the inside.
Yeah.
One's billed in meter. The other one is obviously
per jug.
Your change.
Yeah. And they're everywhere.
Yeah. If you go to any grocery store, I mean, I'm not sure what it is today, but there's about 35,000 different stores and stuff that we're in.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Like we had stuff in Alaska,
Oh really?
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So yeah.
Astonishing.
We'd have a technician fly there from Washington, and that's how I'd end up going and servicing the machines, make sure they met the standards for cleanliness and everything like that. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. That that business is crazy because it's just got an insane reach, right?
Oh, it's literally everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it had brand identity at the time. You know, I don't keep in touch with anyone from over there anymore. But
I was just thinking about you yesterday because I saw it at the store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we got acquired by Primo Water in 2016, and that was pretty interesting. You know, in terms of data processing and stuff like that, there was a real investment once we got bought in the infrastructure. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah, what was that funny story about upgrading the megabytes or upgrading that one connection? I'm trying to remember.
Oh yeah, so our Canada stack used to run on a dial-up modem, 56K dial-up modem. Our entire Canada stack.
Oh my gosh! And what year is this again?
It's 2015 or 2014 to 2016.
Oh no! They were still using dial-up.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, so it was pretty gnarly. But they that it was a really fun business to work for. I had a lot of fun, learned a lot of things there. So that's actually where I've always been a scripter and a developer that way, but that's kind of where I got to really take off. So I learned how to do QA, learned how to write SQL. Now, obviously, it's something that I'm insanely passionate about now. Yeah. It's great. Data is what makes a business work. So
Absolutely.
It's nice to be on. Nice to have your hands on something like that.
Oh, absolutely.
And I got to be on the ground floor of all the networking and stuff like that goes into collecting that data. So,
and how was it like coordinating all those sites and all those machines with, I mean, not just, the inventory level, but also the cache and credits, all the processing? What kind of logistical triumph was that to take on?
It was, I mean, it's an insane, like if you saw it, it's like what I imagine is like being inside of FedEx, right?
Oh yeah,
because everything goes in at 5 o'clock their time and goes out in Kentucky at one particular time. But it was really really amazing, honestly. So we'd have the cash collection. That would all happen. We had a lot of people don't realize that's a huge logistics in and of itself. Because I think when it comes to retail and a lot of these companies, most people outsource it to that, like to a business like Brinks, where they have those armored cars they go around and they'll do that for you. Mm-hmm. Of course, they charge you a percent or fee for that service. But you guys are doing it all in house at a time, right? Yeah, but basically what would happen is like all the cash would come in.
Mm-hmm.
They would go to the count centers. They'd be counted. That count would get sent into our back office. This was all manual processes.
All manual. Holy.
Yeah, so we'd produce a CSV at the end, right? And that would get loaded in. And that's how we did our cash accountability. So it was really, really a lot of fun to learn that part of the business. So once we started, once Primo bought us, there's a big push to actually take and automate that process in its entirety. So we could tell which machines were performing, right? Mm-hmm. How much cash we were expecting and what we should expect to see on the back end. So it was like transformational. So I got to write a good chunk of I got to write all of the routing pieces.
Oh my gosh.
That consumed our routing platform. They would do our routing and then they would produce a file, and I developed the consumption and all the assignment that would go out. So people would have their route sheets on their handheld as opposed to having to remember where 5,000 machines are.
Oh geez.
Yeah. So it was insane. I mean, those guys were going on doing all of the preventative maintenance on the inside, making sure everything was clean and sanitized.
Changed out the filters and kind of upgrading.
It's like if you know what's on the inside of those, it's basically like a little mini water plant.
Yeah.
It's designed to take potable water, but honestly, it could probably it could probably sustain. I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not a water quality specialist, but it's pretty insane. So like have a gigantic 100 gallon. I can't remember what the inside of it is, but it's pretty substantial amount of water on the inside of that thing. And yeah, you know, it was good for the customers and good for the business. So it was a lot of cool stuff on the inside of that thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Then what was your favorite part about working there?
Honestly, there's an insane amount of ability to affect change. And I think that's the coolest thing about some small big companies, right?
Right. Oh yeah. That's I always tell people like some folks they would rather work in a big business or a small business, and I always tell folks, you know, small business, one of the advantages is yes, they're going to demand more from you, but it also gives you a little bit more freedom to go outside your traditional job description, where you can have those fun exercises of growing and developing, because you do have to take on those new challenges, and you have the freedom to make some decisions about, you know, product review or policy writing. And I think that's when a lot of people grow the most, is when they're given the positions to and the opportunities to take on those types of assignments, to go above and beyond and find new solutions and add more value to the company than the company could ever imagine.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. You know, it's funny because the team that built the majority of the stack was still there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're, you know, I don't know if the guy is still around, but he designed the inside of the machine. He did all the microcontrollers for all the processing, helped integrate the dollar bill validator and everything like that. So yeah, it was really cool to see the entire product come together.
And that's especially unique too, because I mean, a lot of machines, they'll have third-party card readers. Like I know Ingenico is a really major player in, you know, POS systems, and they also have some little units that they slap on like Coke and Pepsi machines. So like a lot of those machines will have a third party, but you guys actually did your own as well for the bill the bill checks.
No, this is just on the machine itself.
Oh,
so
we
had a third party as well. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
we
gotcha.
did ours through a company. I think it was called Nyax.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, they're based in Israel, but they did a fantastic product as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then what made you, or what inspired you to pivot and go teach for a little bit? Because I remember your next major role was at the professors at university.
Well, I taught at Maricosta College, which is a great community college in California. I did that in tandem.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So basically, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. There was one point where I was teaching 3 classes. I would get off work on those days and go directly to class.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And at the time, the administration was like, well, you know, then you got to be longer classes because you're not doing it 2 times a week. So it would be a 4-hour block. You know.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
4-hour class?
Yep.
Holy.
So I would, you know, we'd talk about the concept for the first hour, and then I would roll into lab. It's insanely gratifying. But the gentleman that actually got me the job, who's my friend and mentor, his name is Martin Parks. He's the one who encouraged me to start teaching. He said, "I think you have the right temperament for this."
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily true, but no, I mean, it's insanely gratifying. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to be able to hire students, and it's been an exceptional. I mean, besides the talent pool, it's been an exceptionally gratifying experience. You have people that are working, you know, low skill jobs, and then they suddenly level up. It's like, oh, you know, I'm worth a lot more in terms of my economic output now because I took, you know, 2 years of time, or in some cases you had some of those freak students who would go like, yeah, I'm taking 25 units.
Oh my gosh.
You know, and yeah, they complete, you know, super early.
Yeah.
And that's actually really cool. I mean, you see the whole life cycle of, hey, I was working as a barista. Not that there's any thing wrong with a barista,
Yeah.
but it's not a high paying job, right? It's not high technical skill. And then you see them, 2-3 years later, and they're, a senior SOC analyst.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's insane. So yeah, there's a ton of
It's a
reward
solid
there.
fulfillment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredibly gratifying. One of the reasons I used to, when I was younger and I still worked at corporate America, I kind of had this idea I really want to be a sales manager, just because I would have so much fun and gratification when I was teaching the new hires, like how to do processes, how to improve your skills. And it felt great. And I loved that part when I was teaching the new hires, but it didn't pan out in that particular company. They didn't have any routes for internal employees at the time. But I love that feeling of, just kind of teaching people how they can improve themselves. And just, I feel like people just need to be reminded, you are in control of your own destiny. If you hustle hard enough, you will achieve great things. It's just, I forgot this. There's a funny quote or stat. It's like, 96% of your success is determined by the guy you see every day in the mirror.
Right.
And I love those stories where, you're working as barista, you want to increase your value or increase your paycheck or skill set. So you go out there, you learn an entirely different skill set with computers and technologies. That's awesome. I feel like we need to have more of that encouragement in society these days.
Yeah. There's something to it, so, my dad didn't finish his graduate degree, and he spent his life in public service. And
what was he doing in public service?
It's funny because now I'm the VP of IT for Solera.
Yeah.
And we have fleet management and stuff like that. So my dad helped too. My dad was an auditor for a motor carrier specialist.
Oh, really?
Go through and do auditing for the CHP and the federal government to ensure commercial trucking. We're doing everything that they were supposed to. So it's funny because now all the automation and stuff like that, and products that we have at Solera are geared around, or not all of them, but a good chunk of them. Yeah, are geared around that, and it's cool to see. So like, I knew about IFTA and the federal motor carrier
guidelines.
Yeah,
Right.
the FCMSA or something like that.
Yeah.
Federal Motor Carrier Specialist
Association.
Act.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say association, but yeah, it acts.
Yeah.
There's so many acronyms in IT and law and government. It's hard to keep track. I can't.
Yeah. Well, so I knew what that was because my dad was constantly doing it. So so he would make sure people are in compliance with that because it keeps people safe.
Yeah.
So we at Solera, we've got like one of our big projects in the fleet management space is electronic log delivery, right? Mm-hmm. That's my dad did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, used to go through and review the paper books and go, okay, why were you working 14 hours or why were you working 16 hours or
And a lot of people, or for folks who don't know about kind of the standards or the laws, there are federal laws about how you cannot work a certain amount of hours because you're on the public roads, and so a lot that is.
Yeah, and
if you get caught,
it's for the safety of everyone involved.
Oh yeah.
So we, especially if you have like a long run, like my dad used to have a company that he would audit that would go from California to Texas, and then from Texas to somewhere on the East Coast. I don't remember the state in particular, but that first stretch is 18 hours.
Oh, really?
So they would have to have at least one stop, one rest period between.
But
to Texas.
It would be really tempting to just do it one stretch because a lot of people don't realize, like for folks out in the industry, like if you're a trucker, you're paid per the mile, and a lot of them are entrepreneurs. Like if they're lucky and they're fortunate, they own their own trucks, so they're very invested in finishing those trips as soon as possible because when you're sleeping, you're not making money.
Right.
So I mean, I think I've done. Granted, it's apples and oranges. I was driving a stick shift little 4-door sedan, but or even my Honda, but I've driven 12, 14 hours, and it starts to get to you just in a car. If you have a truck, that's an immeasurable amount of more distress, weight, and obviously your reaction times are that much more important because you're not just breaking a couple of 1,000-pound vehicle. You got a huge truck.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, people want to get home to their families in that entire life cycle, right? And you absolutely have to, do things safely. It's just not.
Yeah.
It's not worth anyone's life or time to get overworked and potentially cause an accident.
Oh yeah. Well, especially with the size of vehicles, the accidents are that much more dangerous.
You have something that's 5 tons and moving at
60, 75 miles an hour, or whatever the governors are set at these days.
Yeah. That's a lot of mass.
Oh yeah. And actually, so going to Solera, what first inspired you to join the company?
The standard response is that money is used to procure goods and services, but no, honestly, I was enjoying what I was doing at the company that I worked for before, at Reliant Funding. The problem is that the culture had shifted during
The acquisition.
during COVID.
Oh, okay.
And it's always good to explore other options when things start to become incompatible with how you like to operate. And they were incredibly gracious and everything like that. And that's a great company. Nothing. I think it was more in the IT group than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the main motivator. I had a fantastic time working there. I got to do a lot of fun stuff. I got to build a lot of fun stuff from the ground up. But there comes a certain point where you know that your terminal velocity has been reached.
Yeah.
And I was ready for something else.
And then subsequently, what inspired you to choose Solera and move to Texas? Because you were in California before, which is kind of like night and day.
Yeah, I mean, well, not necessarily. I think there's a lot of parallels here. I see more commonality than differences. Same good folks working, hardworking folks here that you have in California. It's just a little bit more compact.
Yeah.
So that's all. I love Texas. Texas is a great place to live.
Oh yeah.
Cost of living is way cheaper here.
Oh,
So that was
yes.
one of the motivators. So, and I've got a bunch of kids. So I would like to retire early if I can.
Absolutely. Well, coming to Texas that's a
Yeah.
darn good way to help.
It was like giving myself a $1,500 raise.
Yeah.
In comparison. So.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just income tax alone, and then of course the cost of literally everything from gasoline to groceries.
Honestly, I would say that. So I lived in a place where we had like 9% sales tax because the city council, rather than attaching it to a property tax, attach it to sales tax. You can go and buy something else somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
But if you're in that island, right, the convenience is what's going to get you.
True.
which is a better way, I think, of give people choice. I mean, obviously we need good schools and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the taxes are just, but I remember I looked down at my receipt because I had been in the neighboring town and I was like, why is it so expensive? 7.5 over here. And then I pulled up I bought the same thing and I looked over and I was like, 9.2. Oh. The sales tax is different here. So, yeah.
That drives a lot of business decisions. I remember my parents grew up in the Midwest, and I remember Cook County, Illinois passed a different nuanced sales tax, which of course they used to increase. And then they noticed a bunch of their revenue actually went down because the big industry was housing and construction. So all the contractors just drive 15 minutes outside the county, just go to a Home Depot outside there and spend if you're saving 2% on your spending $100,000, that adds up.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I mean there's definitely a benefit to being here. Texas has some really great things about it. I mean, it's the people are friendlier here. I would say that they're more genuine in their distaste for each other. So that's always a good quality because at least you know where you stand with most people.
Agree.
So, That's yeah. I mean, it's a nice place out here.
Oh yeah, great place to raise a family too.
Yeah, yeah. We've got our little place out in the country, a little bit of acreage, and yeah, nice big house. So.
That's the dream.
Yeah. Now, if only the property taxes would.
Well, that's why you need to buy at least 10 sheep or 10 goats or 2 cows.
We cannot have any livestock in our.
Oh, you can't?
Yeah, it's a city ordinance.
Oh no.
So like it's funny because we're in like this little island.
Yeah.
Everyone else has sheep.
Oh, but you don't?
Yeah.
Oh. Because that's the funny thing. Like a lot of folks, a couple of my friends have the agricultural exemption or the livestock exemption. Like he was showing me the laws. He's like, oh yeah, you need to have, if you have like 10 goats or something, then it qualifies. So then instead of having to pay $50,000 a year in property tax, you only have to pay like, I think it was like under $50, like a comically small amount of money.
Yeah.
I was like, so that's why Hewlett Packard, HPE, and EDS used to have buffalo at the old headquarters in Plano. I was like, why on earth do they have a buffalo? It's, oh, that's why.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, the thing is that whenever you have, you know, any kind of economic contraction like that, where you have prices go up, people are going to want to get unencumbered.
Of course, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why businesses are coming here.
Yeah.
Like even
Oracle's coming here.
Oh yeah,
great. Yeah.
Many of the tech companies are relocating here, whether they're telling people or not. Like I know, CrowdStrike moved to Texas, but they didn't. You had to look at like a subreddit. It was hard to find the data, but technically and legally, their headquarters is now in Austin. Although, granted, they still obviously have a huge office and a huge presence in Sunnyvale. I think that's where the old headquarters was. But like, yeah, they moved to Texas. Oracle moved to Texas. HPE moved to Texas. And every tech company at least has an office or footprint in Austin. And that trend is just going to keep accelerating because, I mean, especially with...
It's good for me. I mean,
yeah.
you know, that's I think it's good for everyone, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I think the technologies that are coming out here are really are going to change the landscape of Texas from the standpoint of, you know, like I grew up in Santa Cruz, which is, you know, about an hour outside of Palo Alto, maybe an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. You know, those home brews and stuff like that, I'm sure will come here. Because people have a fierce sense of independence here, which is great. And they have it's a work-based economy, which is pretty amazing. So I'm expecting lots of innovation to come out of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot more opportunities for everyone. I mean, some people are saying, some people are worried that it's increasing the price of housing, but I mean, it's also driving our economy, and you're going to have more people innovating and more businesses starting. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be more businesses to sell to. So there's a lot of opportunity too. The glass is half full if you squint hard enough.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is that, you know, if you think about it from an economic perspective, right? We live in a Keynesian model right now, and if we think about
what is that for in layman's terms for the folks who might not
that's
be
the
experts?
demand-based economy.
Yeah.
That's the so yeah, demand is driving a lot of where our prices are at right now, but they do level out once the supply meets a certain threshold. Mm-hmm. You know, you'll see it in housing. I hope
hopefully
to see it in taxes.
knock on wood. Knock on wood. Housing will go down someday.
I mean, and the thing is like, you know, what I noticed in California is that like I grew up on a street with a bunch of little families and stuff like that, mm-hmm. and we had a big family. I'm one of 8 kids, so we had a fairly large family for California. But what you'd see is that those little families weren't there anymore after a certain point, and then you had the hipsters kind of roll in.
Yeah,
you can only. We have the school there in Santa Cruz, we have UCSC, which is a fine and prestigious school. Mm-hmm. It's really sad, honestly, because, you know, then there's a lot of shift, you know.
Oh yeah,
and people aren't from there anymore. Like I'm from there.
Yeah,
right? I grew up, you know, off of Mission Street, you know. if you were to try and buy the house that I was born in, it would cost you $4 million.
4 million.
Yeah.
Holy.
And in 1992, I think it was 100 and, or no, it was 320,000.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Talk about lost opportunity. I should have bought land there
Yeah.
for 20 years when I was born. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
It's things like that. So there's good things about it, and there's good things about the influx and bad things. Yeah.
Right.
But I think the positives way outweigh the negatives for sure.
I'll agree. It's just going to make Texas that much better. I mean, if you discount the NASDAQ, which is why New York is one of the biggest GDPs, Texas usually is neck and neck with California throughout the years, but this is going to propel us that much further. So I think, certainly within our lifetimes, Texas will be #1 in U.S. GDP, I think. There's so many companies moving here. There's, it's possible.
It'll be a toss-up between California and Texas for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, California's got the 7th largest, or the
I think
7th
it's-
largest economy in the world.
Yeah, because I was reading about the automotive gas ban, and they were saying how the automotive market in the globe is the 10th largest automotive market on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Just
is,
in California.
Which is huge.
One
Yeah,
state.
just one
Yeah.
state, 10th largest on the planet.
Yeah. I mean, California is a great place. I know that there's a lot of different vitriol out there about Californians and their mentalities when they come here to Texas. But I mean, most of the people, I would say, are nearly identical. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's there's more commonality there than anything else.
Oh, yeah. And kind of going back to my terrible ADHD is the worst, but kind of going back to Solera, what was your favorite part when you first started working there? Or what was the, what was that got you excited
Change.
about it? Yeah.
Change. Everything is change. That's the thing. So we have such a ridiculously plentiful portfolio. I mentioned the rainforest, right?
Yeah.
I would say Solera is definitely Madagascar if that's the case. There's just an insane opportunity to grow inside of the company.
It's so diverse too. It's pretty diverse if you get to reach a small town in Iowa. It's like when I was after college, one of my first jobs was selling cars in a small town in Iowa, and we used your software when I was working there.
Yeah, it's funny. When I was at Glacier Water,
Yeah.
our routing software is now RoadNet, which is
Oh, really?
yeah. So that integration that I developed
Yeah.
between the CSV files that used to spit out, we were a customer. So it's kind of
Small
fun.
world.
Yeah. So it's insane. If you've bought a car, right, you've probably used one of our systems.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
And I guess for the layman's terms, or the folks who might not be, it's kind of like the CRM or like Salesforce, but for car dealerships in some way.
But it's so much more than that.
In layman's terms, though, like
in layman's terms, I would say that it's the complete life cycle management of the vehicle, for either commercial or personal. It's like legitimately every sector of what your car does, from its maintenance to tracking what it does, what your drivers are doing, and everything like that. All of that.
which is invaluable because a lot of people don't realize prior to COVID and the crazy prices of cars, traditionally, a lot of dealerships would make a majority of their profit off the life cycle of the vehicle with the oil changes and the vehicle parts. So a lot of those cars are terrible for dealerships in terms of fiscally. Like when I worked in car sales, they were selling the Chevy Cruze, which I guess they still sell now, but at the time, the economics of the car were so bad. Like the profit margin, because it's priced to be, for, someone's trying to get their first vehicle, and we would lose $432 on average on every one of those vehicles sold. The only way sales reps made any money was because GM would give you like $100 gift card. And the mom and pop dealership I worked at, the only reason they ever made money on those vehicles was financing, accessories, and then the life cycle of the vehicle with the oil changes and the parts that you inevitably need throughout the life cycle of the vehicle. And of course, GM is just praying you come back and buy a truck or SUV where then they actually do make money. But yeah, without having a software to properly track that, I mean, all these companies they'd be losing their shirts on these vehicles.
Yeah, and it really drives a lot of value for all of our customers. Besides the safety aspects of fleet management, we've got a ridiculously large dealer portfolio, a bunch of customized dealer products that really do drive a lot of value. I mean, it's good for us, but it's really great for them.
Yeah.
So it's a fantastic place to work and learn. I mean, it's a macrocosm. So Solera traditionally was like a holding company before, and now we're Solera.
Yeah.
So that's the big change. So there used to be a bunch of individual subsidiaries, and they've all collapsed down into one. We're in the process.
Yeah.
So that's what attracted me to the
It's
to the company.
a good unique
Change.
challenge. Yeah.
It's all good.
I can ask you, what do you guys like to do outside the office?
Honestly, this is going to surprise you, right? I'm from California, and I actually was in a scholastic shooting program. So I like to shoot shotgun and kill clays. That's one of my favorite pastimes, and I like to read.
Oh, it's awesome. So what's the scholastic shooting program? Is that for collegiate or high school or?
High school, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I got my. I still have it. I got 50 out of 50. That's.
You serious?
Yeah. So
That's phenomenal.
If you ever shoot at any level, at the Olympic level, there's basically like this half moon shape, and you have a bunch of positions that you shoot from. It's like 5 positions, so you shoot every position, and it's a lot of fun. So
it's incredibly difficult too. I try to do it, and I swear I do good or bad depending. There's too many variables, but like sometimes I'll shoot left-handed, I'll do really good, and then sometimes I'll miss everything, and I'll shoot right-handed, and I'll do really good, and then I'll miss everything. Like I'm left-handed, but right-eye dominant, so that doesn't help either. But a lot of people don't realize that's one of the most difficult sports out there is shooting clays. You gotta get your timing right, and
clay pigeon moves way faster than a bird.
Oh yeah,
you can hit a bird like. You can
like
accidentally hit a bird.
Yeah, not quite shooting a fish in the barrel, but close.
Yeah, I mean, the pattern on a modified choke is about that big.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of variables. You know, I bet it is. You have to shoot with both eyes open. Your depth perception is.
Yeah, I need to get better on that.
It's hard because like when you shoot a rifle, right? You look
Yeah.
at sights. You know, you have a tendency to close both your eyes, but you have to shoot with both eyes open. So you have a full depth perception, but know which sight picture is the right one.
Yeah.
So I was also a combat. I also was a shooting coach in the Marine Corps.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So it's one of my passions. I really enjoy it.
So what kind of stuff were you shooting in the Marines for that? Was the course just specifically for one platform of weapon or rifle, or?
Oh yeah,
it's
just just the M16.
Oh, cool.
We did pistol qual too, so the Beretta M9.
Oh yeah, legendary. Oh,
not my favorite thing.
Legendary in terms of they won that contract, which made the company infamous for the U.S. market. I mean, for better or worse.
No, I mean, I've had Beretta shotguns and everything like that. What I'm saying is that you have to think about from a life cycle management standpoint. Like you've got in the 1st Marine Division, at division, you have 1,500 people. Okay. And all those 1,500 people are going to wear on those weapons. And when new people come, they don't replace their weapon.
Yeah.
You get the next weapon. you hand it to the next guy essentially. So they get a lot of wear and tear.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sure if you have like a Beretta M9, and you were shooting it yourself, right?
Yeah.
Through its entire life cycle, it'd be fine. But those are like a pressure cooker, of people putting their hands on each one of those weapon systems. So.
I never liked the trigger pull either. To me, it was the trigger pull like just feels like you're pulling it for a mile.
Yeah.
Like
that's an adjustment
Yeah.
that you can have made. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. That's something I like to read a lot too. So details matter. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the reason why. So I remember we were talking. I think it was the other day about the
Oh yeah, the Tolkien fiasco.
Yeah, yeah.
So Amazon spent about $1 billion. So they spent 465 million, I believe, but they plan on spending $1 billion for the first season of. Is it Rings of
Power? Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, Rings of Power,
So,
which is technically. So it was so weird with I was reading the legality of. A lot of people don't realize. So Lord of the Rings, that's the original one, written by J.R.R. Tolkien, and they made the movies. But Amazon came in, and the way in which the royalty agreement, it cannot be a continuation of the original trilogy. It had to be a prequel. So I mean, prequels usually aren't as popular to begin with, but there are a lot of nuances to the contract that they agreed with. I believe it's the grandson of J.R.R. Tolkien, or the family estate. He's in charge of it.
So Tolkien actually sold the music, or I'm sorry, not the music, but the movie rights back in the 50s.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because he said it was impossible.
Really?
Yeah. If you read that letter to John Ackerman, it's letter to Tim, he basically goes through and eviscerates Zimmerman's interpretation of his word. You know.
Oh my gosh.
So it's pretty in an insanely articulate, well placed. You know.
Yeah.
Everything that it's a 30-page letter. Okay.
Oh my gosh. That's 30 pages.
Yeah. He was like, I'm not going to miss an opportunity. There's a section in there where he talks about how the story is lost when something is contracted, right?
Agree.
So
yeah.
Details matter, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's just, even the movies that came out, are you a fan of the movies?
Specifically Peter Jackson?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. See, the thing is that there is some fidelity there. That's the difference. I really think is that and I haven't watched The Rings of Power or anything like that. I don't have an opinion about them. But often what I see in the adaptations, like if you look at the Rankin Bass one from the 1977, the Hobbit version, right? It's still in the formula of the original book, right?
Yeah.
And that's the problem that I see. And I think that's why people get upset.
Yes.
You've divided from what we know from the text, and to Tolkien fans, the details absolutely matter. They matter. So, yeah. I mean, I've seen little excerpts here and there, but what you see is when you have that departure, right? What you see is that that the elements that are in place are insanely just out of character for what the actual writing is, and that's really where people get upset. So.
I mean, part of me doesn't think it's possible to have a exceptional movie adaptation, because like I had the same thing when I was reading Aragon. Like I love those books so much, I refused to see the movie just because I knew it was going to miss the details, and just part of your imagination is taken away once someone else defines it for you. And part of the magic of a lot of books, I feel, is it's in your imagination. You're putting the imagery together yourself, and then same with the Harry Potter books. I mean, the movies are great, but all the real hardcore enthusiasts they've read the books. They know those details that mean a lot to them, but they didn't make the director's cut, or they didn't make it on the writing table. And it's just, you really miss those things as a hardcore fan.
Right.
It's like,
yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's like taking a picture of an object. Like if we took a picture of that can of water, right?
Yeah.
Right, but it's not the same as touching the can of water.
Yeah.
It's a facsimile of what you're seeing. So I think the Peter Jackson films kind of do a better job of
being close,
making that more tangible, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the lettering's not there. Maybe some of the elements, but the core, or some of the elements aren't exactly defined, but it's still truer.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, but it's just like when I was a kid, like one of my favorite Harry Potter books was the very first one, is the Sorcerer's Stone. And when they go into the caverns, I'll never forget, like, I guess I was going to say for those who don't know, but people have to know who Harry Potter is by now. But you got, Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger. And Hermione's the smartest one. And They all fall into this ring. Bush. My family's gonna laugh at me because we used to know it so well. But they fall down a passage where they're all being constricted by this plant. So Harry and Ron are stuck in the plants, and the only way to get the plants to release people so they don't be crushed to death is you need fire. And they're like, where are we gonna get fire? And, and Hermione's freaking out, like, where do we get fire? And Ron goes, you're a witch, aren't you? Just use your wand. And it's just so hilarious because it's so out of character for the smartest person not to realize the simplest solution is literally in your hand.
Right.
And like my whole family cracked up. We loved that passage of the book, but it didn't make it didn't make it into the movie.
Right.
So like when we saw the movie, we were intuitively a little sad. It did, like one of the moments that meant the most to us didn't make it to the silver screen.
Yeah.
So I think, you can get
And it's hard to do. It's
Yeah.
phenomenally hard to do an adaptation. It's not like, because details do matter. Right?
Exactly. So personally, I always read 25, 26, 30 minutes a day, and usually business or philosophy, but and some of it's fantasy. But like I just know it's always gonna be just so much more gratifying to read it yourself opposed to just watching it straight off the TV or straight. Oh, nowadays you don't have TVs really. I guess you have computers and streaming, but still straight off of someone else's idea.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But I know you gotta get going. Thank you so much for coming on podcast,
Yeah,
bud. I
yeah,
appreciate it. And thank you for your service, Will. I appreciate it, man. Thank you everyone for listening. Topping Talks is also on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your enemies. Heck, tell anyone. Just stay safe. You have a great day. Topping Talks.